Everyone says that Roth IRAs are the golden goose of retirement accounts. They grow tax-free. You take the money out tax-free, and it's the best thing to pass on to your heirs because it's tax-free and it can grow for 10 more years tax-free. But what if I told you that it could potentially be the worst account for your retirement? That is a controversial take, but in this video I'm going to show you why the math says go Roth every time. Most of the time. Retiree behavior says the opposite a lot of times, and that's why I'm making this video, because I want to look at the psychology behind it. My name's John Lee. I'm a tax professor, a CPA, and I actually do research on taxpayer behavior and the psychology behind it. And that's why I'm so interested in the Roth decision, because there are a lot of reasons. The math shows Roth should be, you got to go Roth based on the math, but psychologically I see other options that may be better. So I'm going to discuss those first. And to start off, this is the 6th video of my Retire Smarter with a Pension series. And if you go and look at the first video, I give away a free version of the My Financial Independence Plan software that I've been building in Excel to help you do very detailed projections year by year of your retirement plan. And in the first 5 videos, we've walked through the retirement plan of a couple, and we've generated an additional $500,000 in after-tax wealth, and we're not even close to being done yet, okay? So, but in this video, we're going to go through and look at their accounts first. So let's first jump and let's just talk about why the math says Roth wins. Then we'll jump into this couple's retirement plan, where they're at. So the Roth IRA, I've mentioned at the beginning. Once you get money in there, it grows tax-free, which is an incredible benefit. You can withdraw it tax-free, and what makes it even more beneficial is when your heirs get that money, they inherit it tax-free, but they can leave it invested for 10 years and get even more tax-free growth. All of that tax-free growth can be detrimental, and we'll talk about why. But for math purposes, it just looks like the best. Taxable accounts are also one of the best. Why is that? Well, first of all, during retirement, you're taxed at preferred rates, capital gains rates. Qualified dividends and capital gains are taxed at 0, 15, 20% for your capital gains. So you're taxed at lower rates, so it's easier to use that money when you're retired, but also your heirs get a step up in basis. So any gains you have when you die, your heirs get your basis in that stock, and then you're not taxed on it. Incredible accounts to have based on the math. So after taxable accounts, we have the HSA, okay? Why is the HSA so valuable? It's the most tax efficient account there is when you're living, okay? You get a tax deduction going in. It grows tax-free. You take it out tax-free. So it even beats the Roth IRA in that case. Why isn't it at the top? It doesn't have that benefit of when the heirs receive that HSA, it's taxable immediately. So it can be the worst account to inherit, but there's so many benefits to it. The value during your retirement, you just got to make sure you're using it, right? According to the math. Real estate, incredible investment, because you're taking depreciation deductions during your life on assets. These properties usually appreciate in value, so you're getting a tax deduction for something that's going up in value. And what happens is, if you could have your basis dropping a ton because of that depreciation you've taken, and then you pass that real estate on to your heirs, they get a step up in basis and never pay tax on it. Huge tax benefits to having real estate, but it's not as liquid as some of these other things for your heirs to even use, right? Tax deferred accounts. This is the one that everyone hammers, and you'll be interested in my take on it in the next part. But RMDs, the main thing people say is RMDs are going to kill you in taxes. If you look at my last video, I show you most of the time they're not going to kill you, okay? And if you're in the top 1 to 2%, they will. And that's this disclaimer. This is for educational content, and everyone's situation is different. If you have tons and tons of money in tax deferred, millions of dollars, Roth may be the way to go, but it just depends on where you're at, okay? So keep that in mind. But your heirs are going to be forced to take those RMDs as well, so it's kind of forced taxes, so that kind of hurts you according to the math, right? Cash, you don't get any growth on it. Like, you're not investing it, so you're losing money keeping your money in cash, but heirs just get the cash and don't pay tax on it, okay? So that's what the math says. The order of accounts, and you may be able to switch some of those in the middle there, but overall, the math says, look, Roth is the best for all of that tax-free growth, and that's why the financial industry pushes it so hard. Why could it be detrimental? Let's talk a little bit about psychology, okay? And hopefully you'll comment on this and your experience, because everyone's experience is different. And does this apply to you? And if it does, you maybe want to think about, okay, how do I want to allocate my accounts? On that point, I love having a diversification. I love having the tax-free, the tax-deferred, taxable, real estate. You know, I want to have all of it. It's just how much of each I want. Some people are saying, well, you need to be all Roth. You'll never pay tax again. I think that can really hurt you. So let's talk about the psychology. Retirees spend far more from guaranteed income than from savings, okay? So if you have a pension, Social Security, it's a lot easier for you as a retiree to use that money, do fun things with it. If you have this nest egg, retirees are scared to spend that. So the guaranteed income, and that's another reason, pensions, this is a pension series, and they're so valuable because you can use that money and do stuff with it, okay? Half of retirees feel uncomfortable when their portfolio drops from spending, okay? So you have that nest egg, whether it's tax-deferred or tax-free Roth, retirees are having a hard time spending that money because, you know, I talked to them and they've lived in times that were tough, right? And where they didn't have a lot of money, so you become a good saver. And when you become a good saver, man, retirees have a hard time flipping that switch to spending. And I'm not saying just go waste your money on stuff, but go get things that'll fulfill you in life. Maybe give more to charities you're interested in, or go on more family vacations to just have those experiences with family, you know? But it makes it hard. So are there ways we can structure our accounts to make it easier? That's the thing. And the retirement consumption puzzle shows most people underspend their assets even when they can afford to spend more. Okay, and it's the same concept of the psychology of spending down that nest egg they work so hard for. So now let's talk about flipping the script, but let's jump over to the case study to just look at what the couple has done in this case study. Okay, we're up to projection number 12, and we've been applying all these strategies. So if you haven't seen the other videos, these are all the strategies we've been applying, okay? And we're going to do up to 20 for just this couple. But let's look at where are we at right now. And the last video was about Roth conversions and why this couple, even though software says you should convert up to the 24% tax bracket, they're not doing any of that. And let's look at why. Okay, so projection 10 was pre-Roth conversion decision. Projection 11 was convert up to the 24% bracket in those years that they were in the 12%. So what effect did that have? Well, if we did that conversion, instead of having 1.4 million tax deferred and about 594,000 tax free when they pass away, they flipped it big time, and they have a lot more in tax free, 2.7 million and 456,000 in tax deferred, which most people are like, I prefer that. And I'm going to tell you why. Maybe you won't, okay? But so that's that. That goes tax free to the heirs. A lot less that's going to be taxed at the end of their life. They've decreased that tax liability. They have a bunch in a taxable account, which we love passing as well to heirs. What are they doing instead? Well, this couple, they wanted to have a lot in tax deferred because, look, when you have a lot of money, think outside the box of just giving a ton of money to your heirs. What could you do that would give you fulfillment in life? One of the things this couple is doing is, of that tax deferred money, they're giving on average 35 grand a year from 70 for the rest of their life to charitable causes that matter to them. Okay, and based on what they're going to end with in their tax deferred account, they could give up to 200 grand a year, and they could completely deplete that tax deferred account and never pay tax on it. So they're building up all of these accounts, but that tax deferred account is almost like their tax-free charitable account. It's like giving it to, think of these charities as one of your heirs that you can give them tax-free money, and it motivates you to give more tax-free, because look at how they end up. So they give $710,000 to charity in retirement, and they still end up with 1.2 million in their tax deferred. So what they can do is say, look, whatever was left, we're just giving it to charity. They never pay tax on it. Like a lot of their tax deferred money, they gave over $2 million to charities, and look how much is left for their heirs. 7.6 million. But if they had done that huge Roth conversion, they would have totally lost the opportunity. They could have still done, 500,000 or so in charitable, but now they're giving 1.5 million, and it's having, 7.6 versus 8.7. So I mean, there's a hit that the heirs take, but is it worth it to them? Is there more fulfillment in, oh, instead of just passing all this money to heirs when I'm dead and I never see them enjoy it, why not do things while I'm alive? Okay, so that's one of the strategies they're doing. Like, and from the baseline we started at 8.3. So all the strategies we're applying, they created what in this baseline we're assuming nothing's. They're not using these charitable strategies. It's just going to heirs. So 8.3 million could have gone to heirs. But by doing these strategies we're doing in each projection, the heirs lose 600 grand. Okay. Is that a big deal? Maybe not when they're receiving that much, but in the end, they're able to give 2 million to charity, plus the heirs only lose out on 600 grand. So they created at 1.4 million of extra benefit that would not have existed otherwise, right? So there's that. Off of that soapbox now. Let's look at how to restructure now, okay? So based on what I was just showing you with this couple, I want you to think about the order a little different. Tax deferred. And not just for the reasons I just told you about the charity and everything else. If you are having a hard time spending that nest egg, what better than to have the government come in and say, you need to take out 100 grand, and you have no choice, right? So that helps people overcome that obstacle of, I can't take that money out. They're forced to, and they have to pay some tax on it. But look at my last video where the tax, when you're taking out that much money, I mean, depending on where you're at, again, it depends on the taxpayer. They may not be as killed on taxes as most people say, okay? So it's that forced, now you can use that money. You can go and do stuff with it, where if it's just sitting in your retirement account and you never have that need to pull it out, it's harder to take it out, okay? HSAs, okay? This one's another, and someone commented that I'm saying K too much in my other video, and I haven't corrected that yet, so I'm working on it. But for the HSA, this is the most tax efficient account in existence, but it also forces you to take that money out as well, right? Because you're using it for health purposes, and then it's the most tax efficient ever. But what if your HSA grows so big that you have more in your HSA than your healthcare costs? You are incentivized to draw that down before you pass it to your heirs, because it's taxable immediately to your heirs. So why not have a huge balance? Because then it forces you, I need to take that money out. Even though I may have to pay some tax on it, now I'm going to use that money to go do stuff, to meet the goals I have, instead of just thinking, I just want the biggest balance possible for my heirs when I'm dead, right? Taxable accounts. Same as before. They're flexible, lightly taxed, good for routine withdrawals. It's easier because they're taxed at the lower rates, easier to take out. Now we're thinking, as a retiree, what will help me spend that money more, okay? Real estate. Here's a good, cool idea. You have to take those RMDs or money out of an HSA. What if you started to build a real estate empire with your heirs while you're alive, instead of passing it all down to them, right? You could go in on real estate together because you have this cash flow. If it's all sitting there in Roth, is it harder to take? It's tax-free when you bring it out. Is it harder to take out and do something like real estate? And it might not be. Please comment if you have a Roth and it's easy to take that money out, because then there's a discussion on it. But I believe for a lot, just based on the research, it's hard to use that money. Cash, easy to spend, psychologically freeing, right? They have the cash there, you can use it at that point, right? Roth IRA I have ranked last psychologically, mainly because of that golden goose. You do not want to kill the golden goose. That thing is producing the tax-free eggs, right? And you want it to, those tax-free eggs, as long as you can. But think about it this way. In this projection for this couple, projected to live to 86 and 89. Kids are going to be in their early 60s when they receive this Roth money. Kids are going to be in the same boat. That's the golden goose. We do not touch that. Let it grow for another 10 years. It's growing huge, right? That after tax. You hit early 70s and that money's still never been used. How much utility do you get out of the money? Well, you didn't get anything out of it. You're growing it for your heirs. But now they're in their late 70s. Now they have a taxable account that they can start using at 70. Can you get as much utility out of it? Or earlier in your retirement, when your kids are young, what could you do to help them get into a house? There's so many other things that money can be used for, instead of just deferring it for tax-free wealth. So there's a controversial take on it. Please, if you found this useful or helped you think about it a little differently, give it a like. Love if you could subscribe to the channel as well and share it with others that may be dealing with the psychological aspects of their retirement accounts and how to use them. I also am doing, you can see the My Financial Independence plan that I'm doing for this couple. I'm doing 20 of those. There's 18 left, so if you're interested in doing one of those, hit the link in the description as well. This will be the lowest price I ever offered. I'm a full-time professor. I'm not going to do this full-time. I'm just cleaning up the model so I can use it on a broader basis to help more people. So we'll see you in the next one.